All right. Let everybody jump in. I hit the
Amazing.
I hit the record button, my biggest fear. You have no idea.
Yes, I do know. You're like, or wait, is it live? Is it, can people get in? Can anybody access? Did I put the right link? I get it.
Oh, it's a combination of that, but like how a part of it is like, for everybody that goes VIP, they get access to the replays. And it was like two summits ago, I got done and was putting out fires. Because I'm still recruiting. The second the camera goes off,
Yeah.
I'm back on like recruiting behind the
Yeah.
scenes, and I forgot to hit the record button. And I just want to cry. And we got down to the very end and I would hit stop record and it was like, why is the record button there?
Oh no.
But
It's
luckily,
okay.
it's a whole week of value. If you get the VIP during the week, it's only $149. Once the week's done, it goes up to 249. So like, I mean, it's power. There was enough other speakers that the value was there. And
Yeah.
I apologize profusely. But I am so excited that Kortney is wrapping up day 5 of Rock the Year. And I think we've had something like 23, 24 speakers already, maybe close to like 25, but it has been a power pack week of just information, knowledge, everybody just sharing everything possible. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Kortney, for wrapping up the week. And also thank you, Creolate, for being an awesome sponsor for the entire year of Summit. So I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Thank you. Obviously, I want to start by saying thanks to Ben because the stuff that he does, I know he has worked with us in the past, been on our podcast, The Full Desk Experience. It is an honor to try to help and just give back to this industry, and Ben does an amazing job at that. So, Ben, kudos to you. I love everything that you do and the value you bring. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. And everyone else, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I know whether you're listening to the recording or you're watching this live, um, that our goal and any speaker that is here is to really just give back to try to help you guys be the best that you can be, whether we've been here training you or we've actually ran desk or running desk or teams right now. So I'm super excited to be here. I am going to share my screen and make sure that can work right now. All right, I think I am up and we are good to go. I just want to make sure I pull out a chat. So I apologize. Okay. Um, and then I guess I'm going to pull out Q&A because I think there's a Q&A. Ben, I think you're going to do that at the end. So you can smack me around a little bit. My name is Kortney Harmon. I am the Director of Industry Relations at Create. And you might say, well, what is that? Who is that? And what do you do? First off, Create is an ATS CRM, all in one platform to help you run your business. I like to say that it has been created by recruiters for recruiters. We have many people, whether it's our development team, myself, or anyone else on our professional services that has run a desk just like you. So feel free to scan this. It takes you to my LinkedIn URL. It takes you more to Create. You can find out anything. I am going to talk to you. I am not. This is not a sales pitch for Create. I just kind of want to give you knowledge. Myself and many other people here. We are here to help you and just make your jobs easier. So if you are looking to evaluate an ATS, I'm going to say this now and at the end and nothing else in between. We do have a deal going on right now. We will give 10% off to anybody looking to move systems, as well as 30-minute free consultation with myself or anyone else on the PS team here. And it's just from perspectives of what we've seen. Myself, I have trained thousands of people across the industry, came from a network of recruiters, MRI network, worked a desk myself, the director of learning and development for another talent agency, training people up. And essentially, I'm taking these lessons to give you. And I actually run our Full Desk Experience podcast as well, which Ben has been a part of a few times and going to be a part of again. So, with that being said, let's get into the topic of today. Um, a lot of times we are in do more mentality, and I speak from experience when I say this. The idea is we're in transactional mode. We need new clients. We need new candidates. And I apologize. There is a dinging going on. I have no idea where it is. So, how do we get beyond that? And there's a lot of recommendations and there's a lot of suggestions, but practical in the weeds knowledge of what we can do differently to grow our business. Because a lot of us were in survive till 2025 mode, and now 2025 is here. And the biggest conversations I'm having right now is how to grow. So we want to get beyond. Talent acquisition teams really have a unique opportunity right now to evolve from that strategic or from that order taker essentially to the strategic driver of growth in your business. But it requires moving beyond just filling the open roles. You have to actively engage with key stakeholders. You have to have reoccurring revenue. So we're going to talk about key accounts. That's what I call them. You might call them something else. So we're going to discuss about how you change your value and how you say what your value is, understanding the impact of the revenue and articulating that to your business leaders, and really earning a seat at the table. So we're going to talk about everything from establishing foundational processes. I'm a foundations person and a metrics nerd, to communications and how that should look, to driving pipelines during strong and weathering downturns of what's happening. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and I want you to look at this picture. This guy seems a little frustrated. And I want you to take an honest look. Are you and your teams stuck in a transactional mode? Talent leaders of agencies and firms, we really have a choice to make. Do we want to remain reactive? And our business is very reactive, and we'll never get rid of that, but we can shift our gears slightly to, or do we want to become a proactive driver of business? So we're going to be talking about tactics to start engaging for growth, capitalizing on hopefully the next upswing. There is a lot of conversations about good things moving. I've been on many talks with ASA, regional partnerships of Colorado staffing, Ohio staffing, Massachusetts, and I am hearing wonderful things about our job market. So now is the time to be all evolving beyond just an order taker, just filling a job. So we are going to talk about cutting through the noise and how do you connect as humans. That is probably the reoccurring theme that I've heard as we discuss AI, and try to shift gears to a strategic growth partner. Reoccurring revenue. That is the number one. Let's be honest, most of us, I talked about that reoccurring or that reactive state that we often get in. Most teams I've seen, I've trained, I've worked with get stuck in this cycle. We spend our time and our days filling open positions, juggling requirements, putting out fires, sounding like order takers. It's like a conveyor belt. But the problem is, while the reactive is essential, it's not enough if we want to grow. Most of the leaders that I've worked with, and possibly yourself, have that sales mindset. There's nothing wrong with that. It's filling a position quickly, closing the deal with the candidate, hitting our number, and then moving to the next, closing that chapter. It's necessary, but it isn't enough. I've seen it. And what we really want to think about, talent isn't just a commodity. There are people with goals, aspirations, concerns. Treating them solely as a sales lead is a risk of transactional relationships. What does that lead? High turnover, low engagement. So I want you to take a look at what your client relationships look like. And I'm going to give you a worksheet throughout all of this. I have quite a few goodies to give you. So you need to cut through the noise. You need to have them build faith and trust in you, because once they lose their faith in you, they look at you in the wrong light. They lose trust, and likely you're going to lose the relationship. And it's the lifeblood of any successful business. So I ask you, are you focused on the right side of the equation? Are you focused on higher, move on? Or are you focused on relationship, revenue, and growth? And a lot of times we want to be focused on relationships, revenue, and growth, but we might be stuck, whether it's not the right team structure, not the right role. But I'm going to give you a few pieces to help you take an honest assessment, whether you run a desk yourself, a team, or you're an operations leader. So we want to change our focus to be more service mindset, understanding people's needs, building trust, partnering with talent and client for long-term success. It's about going beyond the job description, investing in those relationships. This has been a major talk as AI has come into the part because we're worried that AI could take pieces of what we're doing. But AI is in reality just speeding us up, putting us on steroids, getting us to the conversation faster. But we need to think about the service oriented approach. That's going to lead you to better candidate experiences, attracting and retaining better talent. It's going to lead you to a stronger employer brand, creating a reputation for care and commitment. Talking about key accounts, which it's that reoccurring revenue year after year where you can walk into January saying, I'm expecting X number of dollars from this company each year versus where's my next dollar coming from? We're going to focus on business referrals to help you grow your business and your expansion, whether it's with clients or possible industries or aligned expectations to help build lasting relationships. So we're going to dive into all of these pieces. But before we do, I'm going to give you some stats because, like I said, I'm a data nerd. You may know some of these, you may not. 80% of future revenue comes from 20% of existing clients today. So instead of thinking of the next thing about going out and only getting new logos, we still need to do that. But we also need to think of how do we nurture the ones that we have so they're not unhappy and they go somewhere else, or we're giving them what they need beyond them figuring out how to solve the problem themselves. Excuse me. Retaining a customer costs 5 to 10 times less than acquiring a new one. I'm sure you know that. Staffing agencies with a strong client relationship achieve 2 to 3 times higher growth rates overall. That's pretty impactful. Clients are 4 times more likely to buy from a trusted advisor. That is a no-brainer, and we need to prove ourselves in order to do that. We can't just wish it into existence. 80%, regular communications increase client satisfaction by 80%. So if you're one that focuses on NPS scores, that's something that is big for us. So how do we communicate with them and what cadence and when? And then building long-term relationships with clients leads to 67% higher customer lifetime value. That's what all of us want. We want our job to be easier. We want to work smarter, not harder. And if we don't have the right processes in place and these foundations set, we're oftentimes scrambling. We're oftentimes not achieving the things that we want to because the foundation's not set. So today, whenever I say we're going to focus on key accounts, those are accounts that we've already got business from in the past. How do we do business with them differently? How do we ensure that we're developing things and really focusing on key accounts, whether that process is different, that communication is different, and how we treat them is different? So development of that process for key accounts is like any other muscle in the industry. If you're not going to use it, it's not going to stay strong. It's like that in sports. I was a Division I softball pitcher, and it is the same thing. It is no different here. I look at each key account like a muscle. If I'm not talking to that, if I'm not developing that muscle with that account, it's not going to stay strong. We're not creating that muscle memory for those processes. It's not going to become a habit, and they're going to be unimportant. They're going to be lost in the shuffle, and we're going to be reactive to everything that happens to us versus being proactive in how we treat that relationship. Hopefully you don't hear my dogs barking. So as we think of clients, I'm going to refer to these as clients versus key accounts. You may call them something different. Every person in this industry does. So clients are, let's go down that column, that transactional activity. Do you need a guy? I got a guy. Oftentimes we're very unsure of how much business we're going to do with them each year. We're happy we got the business. We fill the role. It's usually in our industry or a niche or our dig or whatever you call it. But oftentimes those conversations, when we're having them, your conversations start differently. It says, let me tell you about my services. Call me when you have a need. It is very transactional. Our words are speaking differently of what we want. We probably want them long-term, hopefully, but we're not having the conversations the right way. Now, 70% of those decisions are based on emotions and not logic. When we think of key accounts, we think of that consultative approach. We think of it being reoccurring revenue annually. Our conversations sound different. We're speaking to them on a consistent pattern, a consistent basis, and we say, tell me what success looks like for you. Tell me what success looks like for your organization. What are your Q1 goals? How can I assist? And oftentimes we have 21% higher profitability with these accounts than other ones. So we do have to have that consultative approach. It's how we make them feel and what the conversation was like, not just trying to sell them. So I want to ask you, we're going to play a little Q&A here, and wake you up from after lunch on a Friday at 1:45. I want you to tell me where you are today. Do you in your organization or you individually as a desk, do you focus on elevating your accounts beyond the transactional? Sometimes I hear organizations say they're a C level client or a B level client or an A level client. And whatever that looks like, we have to level them up. So my question is, do you level them up? I'm going to give you all of these options now. And I want you to write in the chat A, B, or C where you're at today. Give an honest assessment. Yet maybe you do. You see the benefit from this on leveling up your clients that you work with. Maybe you've done it in the past, but you just don't have time to do it frequently. C, maybe you don't do it at all, but you see the value. You're just not there. It's okay. Maybe you're stretched thin. And honestly, maybe you just need to do better. You're like, you know what? It's there. I haven't talked about it. I haven't done it. I need to re-emphasize a focus on it. I love it. I see a lot of A's. I see a lot of B's. And I understand the B's. Don't be frustrated with that because honestly, we get to a point that it gets lost in the shuffle. So, how can we do differently? How can we set it up in our system differently? And hopefully, I'm not going to say it too many times. You have a system like ours that helps you do that on a regular basis, if you have it set up correctly. So, now that you have had an honest assessment of where you are and you're awake, thank you for participating. It's about the behavior of an organization based on the relationship they have with you. So think about the clients that you're working with. It's about the relationship you have with them and what you're doing. Is it transactional? Are you giving them information? Are you working with them on board meetings? Are you participating in events that co-market? There are so many things that we can do and how we can do things differently versus tell me when you have a need. I'll tell you when I have a person. So we're going to talk about those. First step, we kind of talked about it initially, is what is your current state of your clients? Do you know who your key accounts are versus just a client that's there today? Do you have a process to elevate them from a C client to a B client? Do you have parameters on what that looks like? Because adding any new person to your team, it's trying to train them on that to make sure they become like your top performers. Because let's face it, our top performers help us excel. There are A players on our team, and we need to figure out how to get our C players and our B players internally to those A players where we get the same revenue. And how frequently do you evaluate that? The first step in any program is accountability and admitting. So, do you assess your clients? This is one thing that I actually traveled all across the nation to work with MRI offices. So I did this, and your assumptions versus your reality are often two different things. You have the data to support it. So, do you know who you've made placements with in the last 24 months? Do you know what revenue you've gotten from them in the last year? Do you have multiple relationships across the business, or is it just one hiring authority? Do you know the source of their problems? Or do you just know they have a problem? Do you have the trust and influence, or are you just an order taker? Do you understand the company's problems and the opportunity versus the individuals? Because those are two different things. And a large percent of the people that I have done this workshop with all have glimpses of what they should be doing, but just don't do it consistently. And frankly, they're just more comfortable in the transactional because we are so reactive. So we're going to talk through all of these pieces. Internally, your teams, think about your processes and how you have things set up. Do your internal teams and your external clients know the difference between a client and a key account or a key, whatever, an A-level client? Internal teams need to know the difference between a client and a key account. Do they know that? Do they know where they stand? Is it labeled in your ATS? Do they know the process is different, or do they just know they need more attention? Do they know they're supposed to go out for site visits frequently or have conversations on a quarterly or biweekly? And are you engaging and measuring that in some capacity? Because if you're saying yes and they're supposed to do it and you're not holding that accountable, then how do you know it's being done correctly or successful? Um, I actually ran a desk prior to all of this crazy training, and I was worked for an IT consulting firm. And I actually was with Microsoft Gold as a Microsoft Gold partner. And I worked with regional aspects across the nation of helping them staff their needs. And one thing our office did was have bi-weekly meetings with some of these um, regional people that had placed people for the needs in that Microsoft area. With that being said, if we didn't have something to talk about, we still met. It wasn't well, I don't have anything to talk about today. Let's skip. Um, they understood the value of what they were giving us versus somebody else transactionally was just like, I need you to fill this role, or I need this role for a project that we were doing a solution for. Externally, if you look at them and how they perceive us is huge. What you think is different. But what actions are we showing and words are we showing them that they're different? Do they actually know they're getting a white glove service compared to other clients that we're working with? And are they seeing the metrics and the benefit to their business? That is a very important question that most of us don't know. So I would ask, do they know? Now, you can scan this, or you can actually go to my speaker page or my talk page to download this as well. This is actually the worksheet that I used all across the nation whenever we were doing this. We would actually go and physically do this workshop where we were talking about the companies that we've done business with in the past 12 to 24 months. Who are the decision makers? What departments we had? How many placements we've made? What was the total revenue? And over what time period? And it's actually quite a few pages long. So you can go into this to download this, to do this assessment with yourselves and your teams. Maybe it's something you haven't done in a while. Maybe it's something you haven't done at all. But I would encourage you to download this because this is a real eye opener for people as they talk about the assessment of their current state. As we talk about earning the right, this is not something that we can wish into existence. Usually we have one of three relationships with clients. What type of relationship do you have? Do you have the first option, which is often looks like a stop sign? Is it the competitive mindset where it's a win-lose mindset? Your client has a win-lose. It's either you win or I win, and they block your access to insights. They know they need you, but they don't want to work collaboratively. It's like, I know you're the necessary evil. Do you have a cooperative relationship where it's usually one way, that caution light? It's fair and reasonable, but there's really a sporadic source of that coming in. Or do you have a collaborative relationship? Are they your champion? Are they reliable, consistent, referring you to others that often work in your industry as well? So this is a part of that worksheet as well. You need to mention or figure out what type of relationship you have. Hopefully, you have a system like Relate that you can set up sequences. You can have nurture campaigns. You can figure out what your metrics are in the conversations you're having, or the emails you're sending, or the cadence in which you're sending. This is just a screenshot of what that might look like. I'll have a demo page at the end. Now, if you're wanting to set something like that up, we have actually created a touch plan strategy. This oftentimes is for a new business. This can be used for anything else, developing key accounts. What's the cadence? How frequently does that happen? What are your steps? You, as well as I, as well as what Dante said earlier when I was on that call, it's not just one method. You can't just assume it's an email. You can't just assume it's a phone call. It is all things. It is all things at all places. This thing is at our disposal at all times. It is on your LinkedIn profile. Is it your email? It is maybe you text with your clients, and that is absolutely appropriate too. But what does that recipe for success look like? And how do we make sure everyone at scale in our organization has that same touch plan? So here's a recommendation, again, a worksheet. This is like a 12-point touch plan strategy and essentially 10 weeks. So this is something that you can use and put into play as well. I think you also have to assess what types of information you're giving. A lot of times we look at the consultative approach to say, well, here's what we're seeing. I think it also has to do with the lens of focus and what you're talking about. Oh, hi, Dante. Get creative. The touch plan strategy, Hannah, is also in my the talk profile as well. So you should be able to get that on the download. If not, I'll come back to it at the end. Um, your conversation should also be in a lens of focus. If you have multiple relationships at an organization, it cannot just be transactional. What are your problems? How can I help you? Are you talking to a CEO? So, what are CEOs' priorities in 2024 or 2025? What are their top challenges? Are you talking to them about the things that are on this sheet about inflation? Are you having trouble retaining employees? Because 41% of companies we're having trouble retaining employees in 2024. Maybe recruiting people for open positions. Heck, that's who we are. That's what we solve. But if you're not having these conversations, they're not going to bring them to you. It's like they don't know what they don't know. So I would encourage you as you're having conversations in the lens of what you're talking or who you're talking to, make sure you're bringing relevant info. It can't just be transactional. You need a guy, I got a guy. Maybe you're talking about hiring and recruiting trends. Maybe you're talking about jobs reports. You're giving them information from American Staffing Association or Staffing Industry Analyst of what you're seeing, what our industry's seeing. Each industry is different. Are you giving them specific information on the industry that you serve, whether it's robotics, food, healthcare? It could be anything, but are you giving them the information that you see? So oftentimes, we devalue the information that we know because we're having these conversations every single day with hundreds of candidates every single week or 10 and 20 clients every single month. But what they don't know is the conversations you're having and the information you're hearing and the impact social media can have. That 94% of hiring managers use social media to find candidates, not necessarily even recruiters. So how can we evolve our relationship beyond just the conversation? So give them information, have them streamline how they see candidates and what you're seeing. This is an example of our client portal. Oftentimes we work with clients and they get lost in the shuffle. I know that I still work with clients today that they're saying, you know what, just send me an email, I'll approve and I'll send it your way. And how many times do we get ghosted? How many times do we not hear back from that candidate because, or that hiring authority because it got lost in their inbox because they're too busy? There's no login for this, by the way, but you can actually see where people are, candidates, how many new candidates are there, how many are in the screening process, how many are interviewing, how many has the hiring manager actually even reviewed, and they can review it right from this portal. This is one of my favorite features, but this is a way to make sure we're streamlining the communications that we have with our clients and our hiring authorities. Oftentimes, we talk about analytics. We understand that some of our systems, they're very difficult. Maybe I should look at the client portal after all. Yes, you should, Kelly. So it is really the idea of what information we're giving our clients is important because they don't know what you're seeing. They don't know how you're seeing it. They don't know that you've submitted 22 candidates. You've talked, ideally, you're like, well, I've actually talked to 65, and these are based on your criteria, is what I'm finding. They don't necessarily know how they match up. And a lot of times they would love to hear that, how they're matching up to their competitors, what you're seeing differently, and a piece of advice. So hopefully your system can do that to give you insights to be able to have those conversations differently. Also, when we went back to that sequencing piece, and I know Ben is amazing at all of his tools and his AI, and he is way more on top of it than I am. I am a good old fashioned process person, and I want to give you all the tools. And I don't necessarily want you to have to spend money all the time. But we actually did a webinar on ChatGPT and prompts. And I know some of us are still getting good at prompts. I know AI has been out for a while. We're already talking about AI agents. But this is actually a book with 10 use case scenarios that we have seen recruiters use on AI. So you can actually just copy the prompt, throw it in ChatGPT or Claude. I know Ben uses ChatGPT. I'm a Claude fan. So it just depends what you use and how you use it. But this is actually another ebook also in my talk links. So you can download that as well. But I love all the tools that we have. So we have so many things at our disposal. Now we understand we have to do an assessment of our clients to see where we are today to how to elevate them. So we have to figure out how we can assess and expand our influence, right? We need to make sure that they know that we're important and how we work with them is important. So if we establish more trust, we can gain more influence in their hiring decisions and what they're doing and give them insights on projects and bill rates and really be able to get some traction. So how do you know? How can you assess your own influence? Again, this is all in the worksheet. Um, who do you know there? There are often times we have a client that we love working with, and maybe they are reoccurring revenue today, but we haven't broke into a different department. We don't know what we don't know. Are they having hiring needs? You could ask if you could be recommended to so and so in the other department or the HR department because they're hiring accountants. Who knows? Um, even if you're not the source of that, you can have that conversation to figure out if that's something that you need to expand on. More relationships equals more influence. Oftentimes, I am a good old handwritten note kind of gal. Call me old fashioned or the millennial that I am. But it's really the idea of every time I worked with a company to fill a role, I would send a handwritten note to each individual, thanking them for their time for a placement. And I would send them to every single person that was a part of the interviewing process. And what that did was usually that one person that I worked with, that was the one person that had the relationship with the company that I worked with. But I was able to say, oh, you know what? I need to reach out to Bob or Susie or Kelly, whoever it was, because then when that one person left that had the relationship, I actually had many more relationships. And Bob would say, Kortney, I have a need. Susie's no longer here, but I know I worked with you in the past and I remember you because you wrote me a note. It's weird the impact that we can have on the little things. And oftentimes in our relationship, we often think of transactional or quick or an automation that's set in the background and we set it and forget it. We don't do things to stand out anymore. And we need to figure out how we can get back to that. Remember to augment the levels of your communication, whether you're talking to the CEO or the HR manager. Make sure we're giving the value that they need and understanding the lens of focus that they think through, they need, and they need to see things differently. Um, and maybe you yourself as an organization, I work with many staffing firms that I was on Colorado Staffing Association this week. Let me look at my notes. And there was many staffing firms that were on there that they said their direct hire is up 30% year over year. They've seen an increase of 15%. These were three different companies. Or they saw an increase of more direct hire business than temp in the past 60 days. But they didn't have a direct hire firm or they didn't have a direct hire arm. So some people are now thinking about, instead of what we were thinking about 2 years ago, is maybe I'm a direct hire firm and I need to think about staffing or contracting. Maybe I'm a staffing firm and I need to think about the direct hire, or maybe I need to improve my processes to do better in that area. So are you the single source of solution or influence for these organizations? And if you have multiple solutions to meet them where they are, you can just work with them differently. So how do you do that? Expand your number of connections, increase your depth of relationships. Most people that I worked with as my clients, some of them now go fishing with my husband. My husband is a muskie fisherman here in Ohio, and some of them travel across the country to go fishing with my husband, which is very odd now. But it's really how you work with them. I knew about their kids' soccer tournaments. I knew that their in laws were coming into town. And that really built up trust with them. And I know that sounds simple and easy and minuscule, but that's really sometimes how we move the needle. They have a different attitude towards us. We can actually work with them to identify. I know Dante was talking about this when we're working with people. Like, where do you want to hire candidates from? Where have you found success from? Maybe you need to part with additional businesses to fill a solution that you don't solve at your organization. And what you need to do that you're probably not doing today is, what is the ongoing plan? I have them as a client today. What is my next step? How do I continue to evolve this relationship? When will they hear from me next? What is next on the docket so they don't think that I have forgotten about them and I only reach out when there's a problem or they need me or I need them? So, what is next? I just kind of talked about this. Whenever you talk about personal versus professional, obviously there is a limit and a line. I heard about way too many divorces in my time frame and drama going on with families. But but keep it at the level that you understand. You connect with things, whether you went to the same college, you have the same interest. Um, you now like to fish, whatever that looks like. Make sure you're establishing that relationship more than the transactional, because that rapport will continue to build trust within those clients that you're working with today. I liked this quote. I used to hear this from one of the trainers at MRI, and he said, if we only fill their need, or if we only fill their needs, our fulfillment strategy for them is not any better than their ability to articulate their need. How many times do we work with a client that doesn't necessarily know the job that they want them to do? They know they have a gap. They know that they need somebody, a butt in a seat. They think they know, but there's usually a missing piece, or there's multiple people involved. And if we don't understand to ask questions differently, to dive in differently, to have different relationships, our fulfillment strategy is no better. So, do we understand their problems enough? And are we asking questions enough? I know everybody. So sorry, my mother's calling me. Do we understand the Simon Sinek, the whys? I encourage you to work through the whys with your clients today. What are they trying to accomplish? Why are they trying to accomplish it? Well, what is the underlying factor behind that? And it sounds so simple and easy, but oftentimes you're going to uncover conversations or pain points that you never and they never knew that they even had. It's the root cause. I'm a sucker for understanding and always asking more questions. My poor husband, I pity him. They're usually having a problem because something is happening. Maybe there's new regulations. Maybe there's new technologies in their system. Maybe there's new penalties or enforcements or new tariffs. Maybe there's new competitors or mergers that are happening in your industry. What about there's new opportunities or market shifts, economy shifts, job reports? Oftentimes we live these things that we see and we know, and we oftentimes don't communicate what we're seeing to our clients. And maybe that's just something that what we have to help them do. They have a problem and we have to help them diagnose the root cause versus being the transactional and say, well, I understand you have that need. Let me help you fill that role. So I would encourage you to be practitioners. I would encourage you to help them understand what is truly happening behind the scenes versus accepting an answer at face value. Anybody know who this guy is? Shoot me in the chat if you know who this is. Hopefully there's some sports gurus around here. This guy is one of the most popular, best football players that existed. I am not a football fan. Thank you. I am not a football fan where I need to say that this is like the GOAT. Okay, someone said the best. I see some thumbs down. Don't judge me based on the picture I put up here. But this person has coaches. This person has someone that tells him from a different lens what he could and should be doing better on the field. And that's what I need you to think of. While your clients are in the industry and seeing the things, they still need an advisory board, someone that's helping them guide where they're going, what their next move is, how they're finding things, how they're pivoting with what the industry is throwing at them or the economy is throwing at them. So I want you to think of your clients as being the Tom Brady. I want you to think of how you can coach that person in a way to have an influence that impacts their business. Because once you think of their needs versus yours, it changes your perspective. It makes you move and alter and really approach the relationship a little bit differently. So I would encourage you to look at your relationship like this. Oh, this is like one of my favorite things. So try to scan this. If it doesn't scan, it I think is also in my talks. A lot of us, especially our new people coming into our system or our teams, or maybe an underperformer. Think about your B or your C players, or you talked about you wanted to bill more money in Dante's session, whether it's 500, 600, $800,000. You have to be asking questions differently. You cannot consistently work at a transactional. But oftentimes we get on the phone and paralysis hits us. I can tell you that I have trained thousands of people, and you get on the phone with them and they're like, I knew I needed to ask that, but I completely forgot. The conversation got away from me. And I like to call these my oh shit list of questions, whether it's a conversation starter, like sparking the conversation in the green, or we're changing the conversation in what we're asking. Are we talking about their biggest hurdles? Are we talking about their biggest areas of growth? Are we talking about resource requirements, how they're making themselves an employer of choice? What important skills? What are trends in their industry? There are so many different questions in this book. This is one of my favorite ebooks. I did block some things out. So you wanted to at least download something. That is one of my favorites. QR code doesn't work. This page doesn't exist. I'm going to do one better while I'm talking. Uh, I'm going to multi, yeah, I can't even do two things at once. So never mind. I'm going to get you the link. I'm going to put it in here so you guys can scan or log in and actually get this book. This is actually one of my favorite books of all time because it is giving you the questions and what you need. So I will make sure you get this. I am so sorry that it no longer works. I need the questions book. I'm writing Katie. She's my cohort here. I would encourage you, this is the easiest thing to give your new people coming into your business, whether they're an underperformer, wanting to do better questions or having them have better conversations. But I would encourage you, anyone on your sales team, your BDRs, anything trying to get deeper, I would appreciate that. Oh, it did work for somebody else. Now you got me. Now I want to know. I want to know if it works for me. It goes. It does work for me. It says going beyond the small talk. All right. It does not work for you. Going beyond the small talk. That's what it's called. I will put the link in here before we leave. I apologize. It didn't work on my end either. I am so sorry. All right. I will come back to it. Okay. If you got the error after you filled out the email, I still should send you the book. I will give you my email at the end of this. If it doesn't, you can send an email to me. So I'm going to continue to move on. I don't want to continue to stop. So I apologize. We need to think about building resilient foundations. Everything in our industry is very similar to what it's been over the years. But what we have to do is capitalize on the upswing. Oftentimes, in downturns of economy and different changes of it, candidate driven, client driven, we change the focus because of, thank you, Ben. I appreciate you. We change our focus and what we're focusing on. A lot of times during COVID, I heard a lot of people say, I need no more jobs. I can't fill the ones that I have. And those people that stopped focusing on business development are hurting in today's market. I have seen it. I heard it firsthand. However, the other piece of that is if they are hurting and they didn't focus on it, now they're like scrambling to try to find new clients. And then is when I'm seeing their key accounts that are suffering because we only have so many hours in a day. We only have so many people on our team. And Ben, I just sent that ebook to you instead of everybody directly. So if you could throw that in the chat, I would greatly appreciate you. So we need to make sure that we're ready for when things take off again. And it is really about those foundational pieces, those foundational processes, and what we really want our company to do. What is that outline look like? What is that Venn diagram or our Visio diagram that says, we're discussing our history, our philosophy, our size of our value proposition. We're understanding the financial stability of who we're working with, because those conversations are much more deep. We're understanding and dedicating to our customer a different fulfillment process and they know what to expect. Because oftentimes when you talk to clients, they're like, well, they haven't reached out to me. Well, I don't know what's happening. I don't know when I'm talking to them. I don't know what cadence they need me. If they need me, they'll reach out to me. If I need them, I'll reach out to them or vice versa. We need to change and break that cycle. We need to know what technological advancements the ebook arrived in your box. Antonio, I appreciate you telling me that. I thought it did. What are you doing for customer support when they need you? What is your commitment to them in the future? And if you don't have these 5 circles identified for all of your team to know internally and how to have these conversations, you're missing out on a foundational process. So I need you to change that. I need you to understand where your teams are spending their time, what they should be spending their time on. Is it by company value? Because you should be seeing that. If you didn't do the worksheet initially, this is where you go to your system to say, well, is the company Hooli giving me $160,000? Is that projected? What is my projected pipeline? Where should I be spending my time? I don't know why it moved. I'm so sorry. Where should I be spending my time? What is the value of where I'm spending my time? What is my placements over time? And I would encourage you to make sure your account managers are doing this on a regular cadence, depending if they're C clients, A clients, B clients. But you have to have the data to support it and not go on your gut, because I guarantee you are missing the mark slightly because of your biases on what companies you or hiring managers you like to work with best. Collaboration materials. I talked about this a smidge ago. I actually talked with one of our clients here that's going to be on the podcast, which I loved. They do business differently. They actually attend boardroom conversations with their clients, give the insight to the industry of what's happening, work with their investors to give details about the industry, the economy, what's happening differently, and what other companies are seeing. So I'm going to ask to you, what collaborative materials are you sending your clients? Do they know who they're working with of the AEs on your team, account executives, whatever you call them, your salespeople? Because one of my favorite things is I had my own bio. Those people knew who I was outside of work, how to work with me, what they could connect with me on, how to reach me on different platforms. But they had every client I ever worked with had a bio of me and who I was. All of the people did. Did you give them a capabilities presentation? Because oftentimes we like to talk to say, well, we've been in business for 35 years. We do A, B, C, and D. And if you need anything, give us a call. But there's nothing to refer to. There's no book to come back to say, what did they tell me? Should I call them for this? It needs to be a clear cut of the problems that you can solve for them. Are you giving them alerts? I'm going to say of NPCs. All of you might not call it NPCs. Maybe it's skill marketing, star marketing, NPC alerts. But essentially, when you have a top candidate that you don't have a position for, are you sending them their alert to say, I have an amazing candidate you absolutely need to hear about? Because that is proactive. Oftentimes we don't know that they have the need until they say, oh my gosh, this person looks amazing. I have to talk to them. Are you sending those alerts to people? And in what capacity are you sending them to A clients, B clients, C clients, or all the above? Are you sending opportunity alerts? You have this need. Can I get some help? Are you giving them case studies? Oftentimes we look as recruiting firms that we don't look at case studies. I know that's more of a SaaS concept of for us, like for Create. But case studies are really impactful to give the kind of insights in how your company works. So I would encourage you to lean on your marketing team or a marketing person or an outside resource to help you create some case studies of who your organization is and what value you provide. And last but not least, take it one step further. Meet with their investors, ask if they need a hand, help with their boardroom presentations. Treat your relationship differently, because if you get in that door, your influence changes drastically. So staffing agencies with that stronger relationship achieve 2 to 3 times higher growth rates. Hopefully you're identifying somebody that you might need a little more TLC with today to change the trajectory of the revenue you're getting from them, but thinking differently in the lens of how do I work with them differently? So hopefully you've identified someone in the back of your mind. Hopefully you can take that worksheet in the beginning for the key account and what you're doing to assess your current clients today and the revenue you're getting from them to know where you should be spending your time. In conclusion, you have to put time. Your teams can't afford not to put time towards their key accounts. It's not always about a do more mentality with new logos. You absolutely have to have a new logo arm, but who is managing your relationships? Who is having those conversations on a daily or a quarterly or whatever basis? Your teams deserve that to be able to get that to work smarter and not harder. With that being said, I think that's all I got for today. If you like podcasts and you follow Ben, feel free to follow the full desk experience. Or heck, I actually know a few people, including Dante. I talked to him earlier today, are going to be on our podcast or have been on our podcast in the past. And maybe you want to be a guest. So listen in. It is all about giving back to our community and helping each and every one of you get better, increase your team's productivity, and doing amazing at your jobs for your team's sake to continue to propel your whole organization forward, not just one or two people. Ben, I'm early.
Awesome. Gotta like
I'm
pack in like all value.
it's all the things. So I apologize. I obviously had some trouble with some ebooks, so I apologize about that.
One of the things, what you can do is once we get done with this, you can actually hop back in your speaker profile and add the ebook as part of the perks giveaways.
Okay, I can do that because I put them
Perfect.
as just media on my talk. So I will, that's where all the other ones lie. So I can go back to add that for sure.
Awesome. So like as I get the Q&A prepped,
Oh, I did
drop an
see that.
emoji in the chat of your thoughts on Courtney's session today.
Oh, be nice though, too. That's like a very open ended question, Ben. Like on a Friday at 2:30, I'm like, oh, there might be some Z's coming.
See, there we
Oh, you
go.
guys are so sweet.
Awesome. And if you want to drop your screen share,
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I got to figure out how to do that. Stop share. Okay,
perfect.
there's my face again.
Awesome. So got some questions from the crowd, the group. What sources do you recommend to check for keeping ourselves updated on the data and trends on the recruitment industry?
100% without a doubt. American Staffing Association. They have all the tools. They have all the things. They have webinars galore that I can't even keep up with. They talk about economics. Actually, yesterday, no, what's today? Today's Friday. Yesterday, American Staffing Association economist was actually on our podcast because I know all of us feel angst at where we are in the economy today, how things are going. So we actually brought the economist from ASA on to get his insight, what we should be doing differently, how we should be planning for the future. They have such amazing resources. So I would say American Staffing Association, Staffing Industry Analyst is another one. But by far, American Staffing Association is the go-to place, even for me. They have a podcast, they provide resources, they have conferences. Or you can listen, hopefully you listen into other places that have people like that that bring in that information. And I actually am interviewing the VP of, I don't know, he talks tariffs and government regulations and legal aspect for all the states. He's going to be on the podcast next week. So super excited.
Oh, you guys said Noah just dropped?
Noah just dropped, and then Toby's going to be on next week.
Awesome. Do you have any suggestions on how to reestablish a warm rapport with a client who has become less engaged without appearing to as though I'm reaching out unexpectedly?
Well, I think the first step is just saying, I haven't spoke to you in so long. I need to talk to you because I need to tell you what's going on and what I'm hearing in the industry. There is nothing of more value to find something to say, hey, this is happening in our industry. And I wanted to talk how you're handling that. How are you? Maybe it's the tariffs. Maybe something's going on and you're in the manufacturing or logistics space that you need to talk about that. Maybe it's healthcare. Maybe it's something else. Find a piece of value. Don't give it to them necessarily, but say, I would love to have a conversation with you. Do you have 15 to 20 minutes to catch up? I know it's been a while, but I absolutely want to get in front of you, have a conversation, see how things are going, and kind of give you some information that I'm hearing on the streets. Easy, and you can actually do that in any drip campaign to start that. And it sounds like an individual touch. It just helps you get to more people quicker and just schedule those conversations.
Referrals are key, but my clients feel like they can't do them because of a conflict of interest. They're not C-levels or because they don't feel right making referrals for something in exchange. How can business overcome these pushbacks?
I think the question is it an internal referral to another department or is it external? I think your work and how you work with them kind of speaks for themselves of who are you talking to? And I think they happen organically. I think the majority of the ones that I was having and how I approached the business, they would say that they were talking to somebody and this is the problem they had. I'm like, oh my gosh, who was that? How can I help them? And it was more organic of a conversation, but instead of give me their names, um, I think internal referrals are much easier. We all get inundated with the fires that we're putting out, whether it's us as recruiters or it's the clients that we work with. I would ask the question, where is the company's focus? How are you adjusting for 2025? And what is the goals of the company for 2025? And if they mention a different department, I would say, well, how is that department addressing those challenges? And do they have anybody to help them? Because I would love if you could make an introductory conversation and I could take it from there. I think it just depends who and what lens you're looking through.
Awesome. And if your account manager is following the process and doing the right things, but the account isn't being collaborative, how can you step in to change this? And when is the time to let them go? And like, are you letting the client go or letting the account manager go?
I think it's you're letting the account go based on that question,
Okay.
don't you? Would you assume that too?
Yeah, I think so.
I would assume. I don't think it, well, I mean, you might determine that their metrics aren't performing and you might have to let them go too. But it sounds like the client is being difficult. And that's why whenever I talked about the lens of focus and who you're talking to, you can't just have one relationship. Because oftentimes when I had difficult people and clients, or as I was helping train people, they had one person that was difficult, but the others in the organization did not have that same problem. And in reality, that person wasn't being collaborative because they felt that their job was in jeopardy. So you have to understand the root causes of what's happening. Most of the time, I'm a LinkedIn stalker. Most of you are on this call. But I would try to connect with, yeah, you especially. I would try to connect with the other people at the organization, mention your relationship, and love to have an introductory conversation. So I would absolutely try to expand the relationships you have there and not always rely on somebody else to give you that. There are tools, there are things that you can make your own org chart essentially and try to figure that out. There's some detective work happening, but guess what? That's what this industry is. We are all secretly amazing detectives on the back end that can pretty much find out anything. So and honestly just ask. I think those questions and that ebook that didn't work, hopefully that's working now, will give you some insights to have better conversations because sometimes we have a stale conversation when we don't ask the right questions or position things in a different way to get a different answer.
You talked about being the one solution for your clients' needs. How do you assess if it's worth expanding into something that you don't do at the moment for them?
I think you need to have multiple conversations with many of your clients to see if they have that same need. You cannot be the shiny object person and say, oop, one person needs me, I have to go. Hopefully you have a niche. You have very specific niche and you can be the resource for that. But when you're expanding, does it make sense? Do other people still have that need? Are you going to be able to have clients and candidates that you can switch out? Because essentially, when you have a open job order, you want to submit 3 candidates to it. Well, you want to submit 3 candidates to the next one, but you don't want to have to go back to the well every single time. You want to be able to have that stock on your shelves. So if you cannot replicate that and do that search again or in that same space that is adjacent industry, I would not encourage going into that, but I would absolutely encourage you to have other conversations with clients and trusted advisors that you have as clients, maybe your A clients, to say, is this a need you might have? I'm curious because I think I could solve this. And I was just curious if you had the same problem as well.
What is your superpower?
Oh boy. Um, I don't know. Superpower. I tend to have too many irons in the fire and I have this problem of I think I can do anything. So if you follow me on any way, shape, or form on social media, on LinkedIn, we have a lot of different irons in the fire. Just launched a new podcast today. I want to help everybody. So while it's a superpower, it's also it's something that maybe holds you back too in a way because I think I can help and fix and do anything for everybody. So I'm here to just be of service as a service oriented mindset to anybody. So I don't know if that answers your question, Antonio. I apologize.
With the layoffs occurring in tech and a bit of a slowdown in hiring, do you think 2025 is a good year to start off on your own?
There's always a good time to start on your own. I think you have to take an honest assessment of if you're happy where you are. And the other piece is do you want to go into tech? Is there a solution where you start that you have clients out of the gate? Is there revenue that you can anticipate with clients you have that you can go market to candidates in your space? I would encourage you to make sure you do your own research through ASA and the trends that are happening in the industry specific. They also have that as well, or by state specific. Um, I know places like Ohio. I actually just worked with Jobs Ohio here in Ohio. They're anticipating a very, very big boom of tech of what they're doing because of the businesses that they're driving into Ohio. So they have a very good pulse on what's happening here. So I think you probably have to take that assessment and figure out your state, your industry, where you want to be. We called it a dig with other places, but you really just have to do an honest assessment internally. I don't think there's ever a bad time, but you have to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time.
And let me just add on that. There's a lot
Yeah,
of times I see like people just absolutely crushing it in the unsexy places.
100%. And you're like, I don't have an interest in that. You might not have an interest, but that doesn't mean that's not where the business is.
I find that staffing and permanent recruiting are very different. Would AMA or ASA be good for permanent placement? I keep hearing staffing is going to explode. Should a firm like mine look into staffing to supplement our permanent recruiting focus?
So that's actually a big conversation. We did a podcast on this, I think at the end of last year. And that's kind of the world that I lived in. So I was a part of organizations like MRI Network, and there is SRA Network and GRN. There are a lot of direct hire firms and places, and NPA worldwide. If you're a 1 to 5 seat kind of types of organization for a referral program, there's so many places out there of associations you can be a part of. Um, with that being said, when companies want to be that one-term solution, they often add it's just a type way of doing business. They'll use an EOR like People 2.0 or somebody else to be able to offer staffing for these places because you can have a different conversation with your clients whenever you say, "Well, have you thought about getting an interim employee until you find that person?" Because the work still needs to get done. And I think it takes you to a different level of saying, all right, I may not be the expert in the staffing piece, but I can do contract work for my employees. And there are people that want to do that type of work. So I would encourage you to look into like People 2.0 or an employer of record to be able to help you maybe launch that arm to just start having the conversations. And again, I would go to your current employees today or current clients today to say, all right, you have XYZ open opportunities. Can we staff someone maybe for a part-time role or a temp to hire role, like a try before you buy concept? And those conversations will end differently because they didn't even know the what you did existed. So I would encourage you to start there. It's an easy place to feel out the industry and your clients that you have today to say yes. So, and as for permanent placements, ASA will give you good insights. They do cover some information around direct placement and recruiting. Um, Ben, I'm going to put a plug here. We actually are having a virtual event next week from leaders, executive search only. It is actually in my LinkedIn profile. I can maybe find it as well. But with that being said, it is directly only executive search, direct hire focused, and it is how to grow your business. So that is another place we actually talk a lot about direct hire because that is my world and where I came from. So I
And
would
who's
encourage
speaking
you to
there?
check that out. I'm running it. It's our Hey
I
Summit.
know
Hey.
that who's speaking.
Oh, who's speaking? Um, Dan. She is
Aw.
speaking. Yeah. Aw. We have a panel of top performers, like top organizations like Govig and World Bridge and amazing other people. We have Mike Gianta from Recruiter University. We have Chris Hessen speaking, and we also have Trisha Tamkin. So all of you've heard some of those. So I would encourage you to check that out as well. While I'm here, I'm going to try to get that link because again, I can only multitask so much.
Let me just add in there, if you got the picked up the VIP pass for this summit, Francis Larson spoke yesterday. He might be a good one for you to go back and watch.
Yep. Oh, why am I only sending direct messages to you? Everyone, here. All right, here is the link for our executive search panel that is only a half a day next Wednesday on the 20th. Sign up.
What's a good guarantee policy for your clients and how do you design it so they don't take advantage of it?
A guarantee policy?
Yes.
That is a very tricky question. I would encourage whatever you do. There has to be grace in anything that you do. There are always situations, there are always um, scenarios that are questionable. So, with that being said, I would encourage you. It just depends. It depends on what you do. I have seen anything and everything come across, but what happens is what you hold on to, what you're firm with, and what your language is. So that actually might be a good idea for a podcast, Ben. Might do that.
Uh, there we go. Where is the market split right now for companies looking for staffing companies to absorb all the legal and accounting risk at the moment versus the traditional direct hire firms?
Can you repeat it again? I was looking at your message.
What is the market split right now for companies looking for staffing companies that absorb all the legal and accounting risk at the moment versus the traditional direct hire firms?
I honestly I don't know that right now of where we are today. Um, I've seen some reports come out, but I've not comprehended them as we were kind of looking at them. I can try to see if I can find some of that breakdown from ASA, and I can possibly send it out via email, post everything. But I know ASA does have that on their website.
And can you provide a list of associations that you listed for the permanent placement recruiters? It went by very fast. Not sure if I
Yes.
know all of them.
Yes. So MRI Network. So MRI Network is number one. Sanford Rose and Associates. I just had their CEO on Tuesday. It'll drop next week. He is so they actually have a bunch of different arms of their business. So Sanford Rose and Associates, they have Recruiter University, they have Next Level Exchange that covers coaching, they have Starfish Partners, which is an internal like organization that is like their test company. There are so many pieces to that. And then the other piece is Global Recruiter Network, GRN, and then NPA Worldwide is a new conference that I just heard about. It is all direct search, but it is like splits. That's the whole concept of their organization. But those are the four main ones that I know about today.
And then you got the Elite Recruiter Podcast Summits.
There you go. And you have FTE from us, all of our summits, and a World Bridge is another one. World Bridge is another organization.
Somebody said the download for Create didn't work. He sent another link. Can someone point out where?
For Create. Uh, Relate.com. So if I just typed it in the chat, if you're interested in a demo, again, 10% off free consulting with me within the next 30 days. So with that being said, if you're in a contract today, don't be alarmed. We also have an early term conversation and solution to be able to make sure you can get that deal. If not, you can always email me and I can get you in touch with the right person here. So it's kharman@crelate.com.
And I added it in there. Okay, cool. I think we nailed all the questions.
Holy Moses. Okay. Happy
Awesome.
Friday.
It is 2:30 on a Friday, at least on the East Coast. I know it's much earlier for if you're on the West Coast or Central
Yeah.
time period, or if it's late in the day if you're over in Europe, the UK, Africa. And for anybody that's over in Asia, thank you for staying up for us with us. Oh,
Oh, did I do something?
nope. One last person dropped in. I was about ready to say goodbye, but not to be lazy, I just can't write or type these permanent placement recruiters. I've had Q to help. Uh, we will
Can
try
you
to.
list? If you, yes, if there's an email or if you email me, I can absolutely list these out, but I will type them here. MRI, SRA, GRN, NPA.
I hope your hand feels better.
Yeah, that sounds awful. Removing bones? Oh, that sounds awful.
So cool. But I just want to say thank you
Amazing.
guys for joining us all this week. I know we have 2 more days of the summit. We have a few sessions going on Saturday.
Really?
Yep, a few sessions going on Saturday, and then Monday is going to wrap it up with what I call the bonus day. So, got some awesome sessions lined up for you guys. But thank you for being part of this. For everybody that's gone VIP for the replays, uh, so Sourcewell has a. Oh, I didn't know that. Somebody just said Sourcewell has a split program. Um,
Cool.
And I'm working on a little split stuff behind the scenes too, so you should see that within a month. But yeah, just I just want to say thank you guys. Like it's just been such an exciting week to see so many recruiters excited about rocking the year, and I really just wanted to bring speakers like Kortney to you guys to help you guys just absolutely crush it. So have a great weekend, and I will see you guys, or some of you guys on Saturday, and some of you guys on Monday. All right, see you later, guys.
Thanks,
Happy
Ben.
Friday.